Most speedy guys flex slide decks, but this man flexes, just period. And also metaphorically though, he's the guy who can explain subnets and make you feel bad for skipping leg day at the same time. It's the bench pressing brand whisperer. Make way for the strategist with shoulders the size of boulders. From AVAX, it's Will Spangler.
Yo, shout out to Kevin for peer pressuring me into finally playing Claire Obscura. And having played it, I can now vehemently stand behind my point that the only reason this game is any good is because of the parries. So I'm dying on that hill.
You mean the combat, but I know what you mean.
And the music and the level design, just throwing those out there.
Dude, the other last weekend I had like an hour, and I was like, I actually have an hour where I could just play video games, and I'm gonna savor this moment. And I was like, I'm gonna go to the App Store. I'm gonna just pick something on Steam and buy it, and I'm just gonna play. It's gonna be incredible. I'm gonna feel like I'm 14 again. And you guys heard me bitch about this last week. I picked Doom, and that was the wrong choice. I should have picked Claire Obscura. Doom is like, I'm bored out of my fucking mind. I can't get myself to play past basically the tutorial. Why did everybody stop making interesting weapons? Ratchet and Clank 20 years ago had a gun that was like a black hole. You could like glue people to shit. You could like do all this crazy stuff, and now they're like, it's the chainsaw. And I'm like, this is fucking Gears of War. What are we doing?
How many weapons did you get in Doom before you turned it off? Because you unlock more as you go. You get that, right? Like the coolest part about that game is the weapons. Like, that's just a ridiculous take.
Yeah, but that's why I'm annoyed that the first 3 weapons I got were a fucking assault rifle, a shield, and then like a fucking thing that you like charge at things with. I don't know. It's just it felt underwhelming. Shouldn't you like give me something where I'm like, whoa, this is so crazy. I'm gonna cancel all my plans and keep playing this game. I don't know where people
you didn't even get
this
to
is
the
why
Mario
Dune is
Chopper
garbage.
gun.
The new Dune is garbage. I do agree, Sam.
Yeah, but this is why we do that really annoying thing for people like you, Sam, where we give you the most powerful character, like in God of War, with all the upgrades, and then we do something horrible to you, and you have to start out again, just because you're the kind of person who's like, if I don't get everything and see what I'm gonna max out at, I'm not playing this game.
No.
I
don't
find
even
that
know
really
what I'm gonna
irritating.
max out at. I'm just saying, I know, because I've played games like that too. Actually, shout out to Calamity, a Web3 game. Calamity introduces the game that way, and I was like, oh, this is really cool. And then they took it all away, and I was like, well, now I just feel weak and stupid, and I don't want to play this version of the game. I just want to play the version of the game with all the cool stuff. And so I also turned that off. I just want one dose of creativity. I just want them to be like, oh, it's a gun, but it like does something funny that you haven't seen in 47,000 other games. I don't know. Maybe it's too much to ask.
It's because there's 47,000 other games, so you will have seen it, Sam. That's the difficulty.
Sam wants to play that Rick and Morty first-person shooter. Oh, it's not Rick and Morty, but the Justin Roiland first-person shooter. Or
Yeah. I remember seeing the trailer for that. It looked really cool. Anyway, I digress. This individual has forged a fascinating, formidable path, planting the seeds for GlitterCloud Solutions, a consultancy crafted to catalyze and cultivate the very core of blockchain gaming. From sharpshooter to catalyst consultant, it's the king of the kill streak, the ultimate hype man, tuning in live from I almost said Taiwan, Thailand. It's Dub.
Yo, great to be here. I'm not done fucking traveling the world. I'm living my best life. Thanks, Tony, for watering my plants. I love you. Don't fire me from what the job I'm doing because I'm good at it. Great to be here.
Dude, I've got news for you, Dub. There is not a fucking prayer whenever you come home that those plants are alive. You should have hired somebody on Fiverr instead of getting
Sir,
big
no.
tone.
I have trust in my co-founder. He is bringing Hazel. She's making sure everything's out. As long as the daughter's involved, like I know. And Koji, thanks for shipping my keys over there. I appreciate you. I'm just traveling, visiting the people I'm on spaces with, getting them to do favors for me.
Dub, I was nervous because our postal service almost went on strike the day after I mailed that package, and I was like, "Uh-oh, it's never coming." So
I'm glad you didn't tell me until now. I appreciate that greatly. I didn't need that stress.
Yeah, whatever you want to put on it, Dub. Let's put a poly market on those plants being fucking dead, brother. I'm sorry to break it to you. Up next, never one to rest on his reputation. You won't catch this man name dropping his past conquests at Jagex, King, Mini Clipper, Rovio, but make no mistake, he's not here for nostalgia. He's here to launch Web3 into warp speed. He's leading the charge at a chain agnostic all-in-one platform that handles everything from wallets to marketing to user acquisition to marketplaces, user funnels, and more. No matter the chain, no matter the challenge, he puts the bucks in Buxton. It's Matthew Buxton.
Thanks, man. I like the Bucks in Buxton. I'm going to use that one. But yeah, pleasure to be here, and great to see people all over from the other side of the world. Good.
Great to have you back, as always, my friend. And up next, he's the rare lawyer who gets the tech, the talk, and the tokens, combining anime VTubers and Web3 into one mega Nintendo publisher. Trained by the SEC, forged in the fires of founders, and now schooling the space like a final boss in a courtroom-themed dungeon crawler. He slices through ambiguity like a lightsaber through red tape. It's the ace of Andrometa, the lethal lawyer. It's Michael Christine.
Hey, what up? I'm going to say that was my favorite introduction of all time. Bravo. You crushed it, knocked it out of the park. MVP is Sam already today.
Let's go. Another hour and 49 minutes of irrelevance for the rest of you. Thanks, Michael. I appreciate that. And up next, she's the headline hunter who braved both bear markets and blockbuster news cycles, armed with a mic and a keyboard and a mean metaphor from the sound stages of LA to the spreadsheets of the SEC. She now reigns supreme at Blockworks, breaking stories and bombing narratives on the drop. A first draft fiend, a Dow drama decoder, and the journalist of your favorite founder. Hopes is on their side, and it's the maker of media, the true slinger of token land. Give it up for Kate Irwin.
Yo! Well, thank you. That was really cool. I'm a first draft warrior, yes.
Shout out. We all are. Every time Twitter and AI takes a little bit more of our brains, we just start shipping earlier and earlier drafts. Up next, he's the blue pill prophet with a passion for point and click medieval misery. Whether it's tea time tantrums or tokenomic TED Talks, this man does it all as a RuneScape romantic who simplifies billion-dollar problems while doing nothing but button mashing. Give it up for the late night legend who's dual wielding hot takes. It's our Emperor of Esports and the Sultan of Simplified. It's Gnoc. Oh, Gnoc is still in the audience. He's dealing with his street is currently flooding, and so we're gonna let Gnoc get a pass on that one. But love you, buddy. And up next, from gilded halls of Alibaba to the smoke-filled rooms of poker stars, he's the founder who turned backroom bets into billion-dollar blueprints. Now, in a twist of fate only anime could author, he's launching My Angry Yakuza Girlfriend in Thailand, blending vengeance with visuals like it's an ancient ritual written in neon. He's the Titan of Taboo, the founder who can't be bought, and the only man who could turn emotional damage into a game mechanic. Welcome to the panel, Sinjin David Jung.
Yo, what's up? Hey, if anyone invites Dub over to their house to stay over, watch out. Like, your wife might run away with him. I think my wife's in love with Dub.
Yo, Dub,
It's
congratulations.
the mustache.
Appreciate it. Appreciate it. It's gonna be it's a good decade coming up.
What a great life you seem to be living over there. Up next, he coded your childhood in your grandma's favorite game, and probably is the reason your productivity graph looks like a roller coaster. He made solitaire sexy and Dungeon Siege spicy, but his next project is a trading card game where Sherlock Holmes and Medusa can go toe-to-toe on the blockchain. He's turning folklore into firepower. He's the deck daddy, the Gandalf of game design. Pay respects. Pull a foil with Kevin Lambert.
Yo, thanks, man. Didn't code those games, but I did design them.
Just coding in my head. Kevin Lambert was just a demon, dude. Never sleeping, 3 hours doing nothing but Python or whatever old ass coding language you guys use. What was it back then? I don't even know. What were you using? Was it the C++ era, HTML?
Back in the day when I used to be a programmer, it was C and C++. Now it's like C# and Python and all kinds of languages these days.
See, basically a coder. He knows. He knows.
I'm an ex-coder. You can. It still flies.
Thanks, Kevin. And up next, from bartering to card economies, he's the dry-witted disruptor behind Web3's most beloved games. He doesn't sugarcoat, he doesn't overhype, and he doesn't show up unless the meta's worth fixing. A rarely seen combo of sarcasm and scalability, a full-time critic of all things mediocre. It's the deadpan dealer of deck design, the prince of parallel. It's Kohji.
What's up, guys? Hopefully you can hear me. I'm currently in the middle of the wilderness, so hopefully my signal is strong. And Sam, I resent you saying that I'm a criticizer of all things mediocre. I show up to the show every week, so
and you criticize it every week. It still lands. Up next, he's the cold-blooded king of commentary, the gecko with the gift of gab, and the only panelist here who can fit under a door jam. Tiny but terrifying, it's a 2.4-pound typhoon of hot takes. It's Lemz.
GM, what is up? And man, Koji, you are ice cold. Like that, I don't even know how to come in after that. That is that is brutal. Good to hang out with all you mediocre people in this mediocre space, I guess.
Yo, did everyone just rug or just me?
Oh man,
Nope,
I think it's just me and you.
I was sure I was
Everyone
looking.
rugged.
No one rugged. Everyone just stopped talking, and then we were like, Did we rug?" And we're all thinking, "Did we rug?" And we're just waiting for someone to talk.
Thanks,
I
guys.
guess Sam got rugged.
That's my. Can you hear me now? Are we good?
Yep.
You good now?
As much as I want to blame Elon for that, I just fat fingered the mute button again. I'm just going to take that one on the chin. That one's me, okay? I get no more for the rest of the show. We got to prepare to ascend to the peak of innovation with Avalanche, the official blockchain of gamified. With possibilities as high as the Himalayas, Avalanche allows you to own a digital Everest where your community plants its flag and you own your own token fuels the climb. I'm talking Maple Story, T1 Esports, the California DMV, and Sports Illustrated. Whether you're a seasoned Sherpa or a curious climber, come explore the avalanche of opportunities and don't be left out in the cold. And these aren't just your run-of-the-mill developers over at Game 7. They're architects of growth, building a better landscape for Web3 gaming. They've got an incredible toolkit with Summon, a superpower magnet that keeps players hooked. Hyperplay, your fast lane into Web3 gaming, make it in a breeze to discover and dive into new games. Shout out to Game 7, the official infrastructure of gamified. And think you need a computer science degree to launch a game? Think again. It's no longer C++. A phone call, which rugs me a second time. At the Farcade, we've made building games as easy as posting a meme. Use our AI-powered studio to launch directly into our social feeds like Warpcast and Telegram, now Farcaster, I should say, and watch friends and strangers play instantly. Plus, you can walk away with cash prizes worth thousands. Built for fun, win for real. It's game time, baby. And we're trying to scale up this podcast as well, and it's a co-op campaign, so give us a share. Let's see if we can beat this boss together. No pressure, but I won't put any food in Lemz's terrarium if you don't. Nintendo Switch 2 blows out launch day sales records. It's time to own up or shut up. Did you think this would happen? Nintendo posted today that it sold over 3.5 million units worldwide in its first 4 days, becoming the fastest selling Nintendo hardware ever globally. A few days ago, Nintendo creator claimed that they had sold 3 million in the first 24 hours. Might have been exaggerated, but now we have the official confirmation. To put it in perspective, the PS4 held the record with 1 million units sold in 24 hours. To put it in further perspective, PS4 and PS5 each sold about 4 million units in about 6 weeks. The Switch 2 is going to beat that in one. Own up or shut up. Did you think the Switch 2 was going to crush these records the way that they have? Wow, I looked down at my phone, 6 hands already. I'm going to Kevin Lambert. Let's go to K-Lam.
Thanks, man. Yes, did think this would happen. I'm going to warm Tatted Lawyer's heart by saying this, but Nintendo has product launches down. I am a little bit surprised that the number of must-have games with this unit were lower than some of the prior launches. Like, you remember when the N64 launched and it had like 4 games you absolutely had to play come with it. Like, there were those kind of console launches, and then there are these, which is still amazing. But I mean, this device is amazing. There are people who have Switch Ones who are just like, man, the controller drift is getting out of hand. I need a new device rather than just go get a new controller. I'll wait till the Switch 2 comes out. All the way to like, hey, it's the next gen, the snap on, like the new features are incredible. And the games that are coming, including the Mario Kart, are great. So this didn't surprise me at all. Nintendo knows how to do product launches. They have had the best console launches of any. There have been a couple like a Sony launch here and there, an Xbox that came close, but Nintendo just blows them all out of the water.
Absolutely crushing. Kevin saw it coming. Koji, did you?
I mean, I definitely saw it coming. I wasn't happy about it, but I definitely saw it coming. I mean, it, it's it's like the four quadrant system. It appeals to everybody, right? So like, it only makes sense that it's going to succeed like this. But I'm going to double down on Kevin's point. Not only did it not have enough must-have games, it did not have enough games. Period. Like, other than Mario Kart, it's like, hey, here's some other games that you probably already own that you can play an update of. Like, it's shocking because this is like has had the least offerings and is the most expensive and yet has somehow sold the most. It's just like, yeah, I don't want to double down on last week, but we truly do live in a dystopian hellscape. Nobody cares about products anymore. It's just like, how hype can we make the marketing?
Have I heard the name before? Must be good. I'm gonna buy that IP no matter what slop you serve me up. I'm gonna put it in my gullet and I'm gonna say thank you, Matthew Buxton. Am I right here, or is there a
And
chance
I
that?
think there's something slightly different going on. It's like you're not losing any of your Switch One games, basically. I think that's the thing. It's like when a new gen console comes out, it's like backwards compatibility now exists, and it's essentially anyone who had a Switch is going to get a Switch 2 to play their all existing games that they're probably still playing because it's kind of easy to get cheap games off the store and play games that cost you not a lot. There's a lot of indie games on Switch. There's a lot of stuff to do. I mean, when it comes to actually making brand new games for this, you got to think that PC has been absolutely destroying what is console market. Console market doesn't really seem to exist outside of these massive black hole games that take 7 years to do. And who's really going to make this a game specifically for this console with that timing in that era when you actually have to make it good enough for PC, good enough for this, good enough for that? You don't have the same high target, but then you've got to put the same level of in as a Nintendo title. So I think it's just the nature of the actual games industry, the nature of the beast, the nature of the fact that no one really wants to pay full price for a game anymore, is that you're going to see less games because studios are struggling more than the console guys. So I think, yes, I expected it to sell as much. And I don't think anyone's really going to have much more games. I think we'll see more ports from games coming to Switch 2, and we will see like purely Switch 2 exclusives, except from Nintendo. So I think this is really where we get, and we might see another new Animal Crossing. We might see more new good Nintendo games. But yeah, you're right about the slot, but I think it's the games industry's fault, not Nintendo's.
Yeah, fair enough. I mean, it seems like all media seems to be falling into the same trap. I want to hear from Kate Irwin. Then we're going to Tatted.
Yeah, I think people have been waiting for this one for a while. It's funny because like at least my perception has been that Nintendo like barely marketed this and like we all knew it was coming, we all wanted it. Lots of people bought it. And yet Nintendo like barely had to lift a finger. Like I remember a previous Nintendo like live stream that they did where they're like, we're not talking about the Nintendo Switch 2. We're not talking like they purposely like front ran their own event by saying we're not talking about our console during this event because I guess they just wanted to talk about games. But this is all to say like I don't really think they even need to do marketing. It's such like a global brand. I think it says a lot about like where gamer appetites are going and like that there's still interest in casual games. There's still a lot of interest in single player games. And yeah, the original Switch, which I have, like, it leaves a lot to be desired once you start to kind of scale up to more AAA games. Like, Apex Legends looks awful on the Switch original. So I haven't tried out the Switch 2, but I would be very curious to see whether it provides any meaningful graphic improvements or other hardware improvements.
It's amazing to me that Apex Legends even ever made its way to the Switch. It just seems like such a
Right?
mismatch of audiences. Almost bizarre. Tatted lawyer to you, then to knock.
Yeah, I'm gonna say I'm incredibly surprised. Not the fact that it sold so many, but the fact that it hasn't sold more yet. And the reason for this is because Nintendo has developed such a brand where its retention numbers amongst its consumer base are so high that they dwarf retention numbers for PlayStation and retention numbers for Xbox. Like, so if you have a game on all three consoles, the Nintendo retention is generally going to be higher because generally Nintendo consumers aren't buying Nintendos because of the graphical complexity of the games or anything like that. They're buying it because Nintendo is a very familiar brand. They have very familiar games. They want to buy Mario. They want to buy Mario Kart. I cannot wait myself for Super Smash Brothers to come out next year. I'm going to play the crap out of that game on the Switch too. So I'm surprised that they haven't sold more. Whenever I talk to anybody at Nintendo, the one thing that they constantly tell me is we're not worried about making money. We're just worried about making the best experiences for our gamers. And the thing about that I love is that's something I haven't heard from any of the other major gaming platforms or providers or consoles when I've spoken to them. So I think Nintendo just does it the right way over and over and over again, and they prove decade after decade why they are, the undisputed champ, if you will. And I can't wait to see how it continues. And I think the strategy, based off what Koji said earlier, how like yes, they launched this year and they're blowing through sales records, and they don't have a lot of games. Well, that in itself is a strategy because when a lot of these games come out in 2026, you don't think these sales numbers are going to also jump up in value as soon as these games come out and people are like, oh, wow, let me also get a Switch. They just dominated last year and now all these games are coming out this year and they're going to dominate again. I can see Christmas time this year being a really, really, really huge time for Nintendo Switch 2. I myself will be purchasing one for my nephew, which will be his first ever console, and I can't wait for it.
That's awesome, man. Yeah, seems like if you're underwhelmed by these numbers, it's definitely a supply side issue than a demand side issue because I was seeing all kinds of people staying up until 3 a.m. and then not being able to get it from the first place and bouncing to the next place. Knock, over to you.
Yeah, I'm doing my best Chuck Stock impression today. I'm out of breath while on the exercise bike here. I'll start by saying this. It is a fucking nice console. In your hands, playing the game, the screen looks great. It's definitely more performant than the original Switch 1. I think if you look back to my take earlier when we had this discussion, I think you'll find that this is consistent. I expected it to sell this well on launch. I still do not believe it will outsell the Switch 1 for a couple of reasons. The biggest of which is there are just no real draws to purchasing this thing. It's effectively the Switch 1 Pro. We had the Switch Lite, which makes it easier to take it on the go. You've got the Switch 2, which makes it a little more beefy than the Switch 1, but doesn't really offer anything new other than better performance. If you're looking at the titles that are available over the course of the next 12 months, you've got Mario Kart 10, which is effectively, or Mario Kart World, which is effectively Mario Kart 8 Deluxe Deluxe. They've added one game mode that isn't really that cool. You get bored of driving around the world quite quickly. It's really not that big of a draw. Later in the year, you've got Donkey Kong 59, you have Kirby Air Ride 2, you've got Smash again next year, and then the most exciting game that is coming to the Switch in the first 12 months isn't a Switch exclusive. It's Silksong. So if you're going to play it, you're going to play it literally anywhere other than the Switch. So for me, I don't see enough of a value add to justify making that purchase. I agree with Tatted. I'll probably pick it up. I've had the opportunity to play it on a couple of friends. I'll probably pick it up around Christmas. There'll be a few more games, whatever. But the overlap with the Switch 1 is almost a Venn diagram. You effectively get titles that you already have on the Switch. They're slightly upgraded. It's really not that compelling compared to Switch 1, which launched with Breath of the Wild. There's really nothing here that I think should get you excited about going out and purchasing one other than if you just want the next Switch. And then on top of all of that, the biggest draws for people here was, oh, we get to play 30-year-old NES and Super Nintendo games on an $800 console. I get to pay $85 for a wireless GameCube controller from 25 years ago. It's classic Nintendo mama birding us slop. It's the same shit that they've been releasing for the last 30 years. Every year
Flop.
every year they re-release the same thing with a different number. The game really isn't that different. It's missing that flagship launch title like Breath of the Wild. It's just not that compelling to me. Pretending that it's not a great console from like the looks, I think is objectively stupid. But when Xbox announces the Ally yesterday or on Sunday, and you have Gen 5 consoles in both Xbox and PlayStation, all launching around the same price point. And the next gen consoles for PlayStation and Xbox are probably happening in the next 12 months. It'll probably also be around that $600 to $800 price point. If you're looking at it from a pure value perspective, it is objectively the worst console that you could purchase from performance POV.
Oh,
To be fair, though, it's not slop. It's just a reheated, week-old gourmet meal.
Fair. Yeah, but it's reheated 15 times now. Like Mario Kart World is literally 8, but with one additional game mode, and they've pegged it as a $110 game.
brother, with how old the Switch 1 is now, this is an MRE ration. This isn't a reheated meal from last week. These things are freeze-dried and packaged to survive for the friggin' nuclear apocalypse. I'm going to Matthew Buxton, and then we're tagging in Sinjin.
Dude, I mean, everyone needs a new console to play Skyrim on. I mean, Skyrim has to go on a new console every so often, otherwise the world ends. I mean, we all know this, and that's exactly what's happening. Look, I don't get why people are so against things that are sort of repeats and repeats. I mean, nearly 90% of the stuff that we see in Web3 is based on something, is based on another game. In fact, we see more outright copies in this space. And the biggest game in this space is, again, a 25-year-old game. So we can shut the fuck up about, like, we need innovation because we are terrible at it. I mean, we have an entire new tech and we do the same stuff, but with worse things. And like, for us to, in this space, to criticize Nintendo is basically like one of those really fat guys looking at the Miss World competition saying, yeah, not hot, not hot, not hot. I mean, come on, guys. Like, until we can actually say that we've delivered a game that has at least $1 million a day, and it's not just fake money, it's actual money, people opening their wallets for it, then I think we can give them a pass for actually giving people what they want, which is a better version of the console that they love. And I love my Switch, but it is getting old. I will replace it with a Switch 2. Will I buy the new games? No, because everyone's fucking skint these days. I'm not going to be buying new games. Who can afford to buy a brand new console and then a bunch of new games? It's not like it was back in the day. You're not going to get a console deal with 8 new games. There's simply not that people around for that. You're going to buy it and you're going to buy the games that are like a year old, 2 years old. Breath of the Wild, there will be another Zelda game. It will be fantastic or terrible. They alternate. But, I don't think this is fair to say it's reheated slop. I think this is fair to say that every single game, Madden, all of these things, they're just fucking sequels. Like 90% of the industry's sequels. We're waiting for what? GTA 6? A fucking sequel. Like, come on, guys. Like, IP and original IP does exist on Nintendo, but it takes literally now about 30 years for an IP to become something AAA, just due to the costs. So, I think it's really unfair to say that it is just reheated slop. It's a fantastic new console to play all of the games you already have in better, which is kind of what I want when my daughter builds Dragon Quest Builders 2 into some crazy sort of things that she crashes the console. I want her to be able to go crazier. So I think it's great because it's great for kids. It's great for people who grew up with consoles and couch play that now would never do that in a million years. So, I think the world has changed around the console. The Switch is actually better. If I wouldn't bother with a PlayStation 4, I don't have the time for that shit. I'd get a PC, like a PlayStation 6, whatever. No one gives a shit about consoles that are trying to be PCs with the top graphics because PC's always going to beat them. You want a console that does something different, which is fun and console stuff. And that is the Switch. That's actually the console. Everything else is just a nerfed PC in a smaller
You can
box.
get like insane graphics on the PS5 on like an 88-inch OLED, which is what we have in our basement. And like I'm low key jealous of my fiance with his 88-inch OLED in our basement, just like playing on his PS5, like the most chill single player games. I'm like, oh man, why don't I do that? That's so much better for like everything, mainly mental health, but yes. I don't know.
Hey. It's not the size, it's the games you play on it,
Right.
okay?
But when it's that big, you can see the resolution. Like it means more, like he watches basketball on that TV too, and the basketball is so blurry because like the NBA is still streaming in 720p apparently. And you can really tell on an 88-inch TV, and you can't, tell on a laptop. But anyway, I just wanted to like quickly chime in to share my 2 cents on that. And I mean, I think what's also interesting is if you look at Nintendo's history of like when they've released consoles versus handhelds, like what that timeline's looked like. The gap between the Switch 1 and the Switch 2 is like one of the biggest console gaps that they've ever had. I think it's like 8 years or something. And it's just really interesting to think about that, what that means. We've heard gaming execs in the past from the likes of Sony saying like, "Hey, we don't know how much more innovation from a hardware standpoint is currently possible." Basically, the subtext of that being, we don't know if we can actually, make major leaps forward from here from like a hardware standpoint for many years. And so I do wonder if like a part of the excitement around the Switch 2 is just that it's been, way more years than previous releases between consoles, and so people are like really craving something new. and something's coming out, and it's like, yeah, this is very much good enough for the year 2025.
I'm still just shooketh about the NBA comment. I agree with you. Sometimes I'm like, this looks better on my computer monitor. Like, what am I doing in the living room? Fuck this. I do want to get through this though. We have to move on to a new topic soon. Sinjin, I'm going to you, then to Tatted, then Lemz, and we're moving on.
Yeah, I agree with Kate. Size absolutely does matter, especially in the resolution when it's a lot bigger. That's my experience on many occasions. Come on, like Nintendo knows its market, and I think Koji and Matt have said it as well. This is like the family con. Like clearly a lot of you don't spend time with like children because and other young families that have young children, because like the Switch was really their first console, and parents, they love Nintendo, they love the Switch, and they have that nostalgia as well, and they're good to actually play with their kids. Like I'm not like, I taught my eldest son to play Dota, and I regret it. And people were like, I'm like online, and I'm telling people like, hey, it's my son, go easy on him. And then literally the other gamers in Dota were like, you're a terrible father. What kind of father would actually teach their son Dota, right? And expose them to this kind of abuse and toxicity. So like, am I surprised? No. I mean, like, Nintendo will do whatever Nintendo does, and it doesn't give a fuck about any of our opinions here because it's fucking Nintendo. So like, good on them. I mean, if this is the gateway drug to gaming, I mean, Nintendo's it. You guys should all be fucking thankful.
Yeah, I mean, I would feel the same way about League of Legends. Like, that's literally just teaching someone to, I don't know, experience psychological abuse. Tatted, over to you, Lemz.
Yeah, I just wanted to correct some things that Knox said. The console is $500 with bundles with games alongside of it, not 800. B, all of those games
He's Canadian. He's
I'm
Canadian.
Canadian.
He's Canadian.
That's fair. That's very fair. That's very fair. But B, all those games that you listed, when you said Mario, when you said Mario Kart, when you said Super Smash, when you said Donkey Kong, those are all reasons I want to buy the Switch for myself. Like you're saying, oh, they're just slight upgrades. That's like I would understand that argument if you're talking about Madden, FIFA, NBA 2K, or any of the sports games that have ever come out since 2015, basically being the same exact game 10 years later. But guess what? Those are still some of the most successful franchises in the world, and people keep buying them and buying them and buying them. So clearly, the idea of something like completely new, completely revolutionary that's never been seen before is generally not the priority of these larger companies. And to Sinjin's point, he made my last point very, very clearly. When parents think about consoles, they think about Xbox and PlayStation as like adult people consoles. They think about Call of Duty and all the crazy toxic lobbies that you don't really see on Nintendo. And if I'm a parent and the parents that I've spoken to, they want to buy their kids consoles, but they don't want to buy them these like adult quote unquote consoles. Nintendo is the de facto console that they'll buy because Nintendo is that family friendly console. And that has been their brand for the last 30 years. So this isn't surprising to me at all. I think sometimes we have to take a step back and understand that maybe for us as adults, it might not be the greatest, but if I'm 5, 6, 7 years old and I've never played Donkey Kong before, I am hyped to play this. And as somebody who's been playing Donkey Kong since 1992, I'm still hyped to play it. So I just wanted to come in and correct some of the Knock statements. But Knock, I understand you're underwater where you are, so your mind's not thinking as clearly as it probably could be right now.
He's low on oxygen right now. Lemz, over to you for the last word.
All right, I'm going to bring it back to the game mode of own up or shut up, and I'm going to own up that I thought this thing would sell way worse than it did. It's like on track to do like 3 or 4x what the Switch One did in its first week. Like that's pretty insane. Like not mentioned there when we talked about it before. There was a little bit of nuance when we talked about it before. It was based on the total number of units sold. It was a few months back, and it was like, will the Switch 2 break that like total record because it was so high? I'm not so sure. At that time, I was like, oh, it's probably not because the Switch One was such a unique new thing at the time. It was like a handheld portable. It was like a big jump from the Wii or the Wii U, which was, another whole other thing. But like the fact that they're killing it, and I didn't realize it had been 8 years until Kate brought it up as well. So I guess there is like a bit of a hardware upgrade, but man, like to actually outdo yourself by that much of a multiple in the first week, it'll be really interesting to read this in 6 months and see if it actually ends up flipping the Switch One as like the best selling console. Because if they, ship some really exciting new titles that people are excited to get it in play, like it definitely looks like it's a possibility.
Yeah, it's awesome to see all the nostalgic stuff getting their time in the shine. Obviously, they have to do that at the launch to get people really excited. But please, for the love of God, just make an innovative title somewhere in the mix over the next like year and a half. Just please, take a shot. I don't even care if it's like a 3 out of 10. Just show me that you're trying. Something different. Anyway, we move on. Sentiment score around Star Atlas. The former sponsor of Gamified, actually, despite downsizing after FTX, being caught up in that debacle, Starless has kept shipping stuff. They managed to keep their community engaged and believe in a greater vision, despite being, potentially years away from actually being able to manifest this. From the recent town hall, though, they surprised people with the soft launch of HoloSim, a new version of their existing on-chain game, Sage Labs. It's a browser-based 2D simulation game with some risk elements like permadeath and combat, and an update that adds free-to-play to help onboard new players, but you can only participate in the economy side if you're willing to spend. The question here, though, is around Star Atlas. They canceled the gamified contract. They let go of their marketing director. They had to do a bunch of stuff to sort of tighten their belt. But with that in mind, they're still shipping. And one of the reasons I wanted to bring this topic up was they did this really big town hall announcement. They had a bunch of things. The first person shooter mode is also off to the races. They have more and more like space related stuff that actually is usable now. And we've seen Star Citizen in Web 2 raised like $800 million selling ships, which basically could be NFTs, but they're not NFTs. I think it's been 10 years total, maybe even 12 now that they've been working on Star Citizen. And I would argue that we've seen a lot more from Star Atlas in 6 years than we saw from Star Citizen in the first 6 years. Star Citizen has a head start on them. But I think it's really interesting to sort of compare the two because blockchain games in general just get so much flack for not shipping stuff. Obviously, there's a lot of nuance in maybe the quality, or maybe they're just shipping more assets or whatever, but Star Citizen has done that too. Anyway, I digress. I want to get out of the way here and just get people's sentiment score on Star Atlas's progress over the last 6 years. Sinjin, I want to go to you first on this one.
Yeah, I won't say about 6 years. I mean, like, obviously, the scale at which they were, aiming at as a scope was just unreal. And the fact that, they did get hit hard with the FTX issue because, a majority of their money was, or half of it or something like that, was the treasury was in FTX. And I think that's very public news. My sentiment score is, it's still very positive. I'm not going to say bullish or bearish or whatever like that, just because, like, if you're still shipping and you're still surviving and you're still pushing forward in this particular market, like, I don't care if it's Web 2 or Web 3 in gaming, and you're still shipping, and at the end of the day, no matter what the situation is, whether you're tightening your belt, whether you're bootstrapping even more, whether you're trying to make the dollar last, if you're still shipping, fantastic. Right? Like, if you're still able to pay those salaries and move forward and there's a really clear way forward, then I think in this market at this particular time, all you have to do is like just be impressed and give them the support. There's no crystal ball here, but like, I'll say that, and we all know it. The industry is getting hammered on all sides, and there's the entire macro economy issue globally, and nobody really knows how things are going to turn out. And that also impacts, like, investments and consumer sentiment. Like, are people like really going out there and spending on brand new ships for, like, whatever, $1,000 or whatever like that? Like, maybe that model's gone and dusted just because people are tapped out. But the fact that they're moving forward and they're building, I think that's the only thing you can do, and that's a good mark and indication of my books.
Thanks, Sinjin. Appreciate that perspective. Let's go to Tatted, then I want to go to Koji.
Yeah, I think with with Star Atlas and Star Citizen, I personally believe came out at the right exact time. Like, yeah, they've raised upwards of like $800 million, but they did that over the course. I believe they started in 2012. So they came out at a time when there wasn't a ton of gaming content. The mobile gaming was really just starting to find its legs, and they offered something completely new that gamers had never seen before. Unfortunately, even despite the fact that Star Atlas has now shipped a lot more than what we would see from Star Citizen, it's not anything that we haven't already seen before. It's kind of to the point in the last conversation, Web3 games are oftentimes copycats of something that's already happened in the real world. And if you actually look at market psychology, copycats tend to do worse than the original. Like that's why Dr. Pip sells less than Dr. Pepper. So the point that I'm trying to make here is I think they had a massive head start. They launched at the perfectly right time. Star Atlas for what it was and what it's done definitely launched at the right time in terms of bolstering their treasury. But I don't think anything can really repeat the success or the popularity, if you will, of Star Citizen until it's like completely fully immersed VR. Like I'm having Neuralink in my head, and I'm like, oh my god, this is the next iteration of gaming that we see in anime or any of these new series coming out. So that's I really, it's nothing against Star Atlas. I just don't think that they started at the right time to even really be in the same realm of competition that Star Citizen's in.
Interesting stuff
Sorry,
there. What's up, Dub?
dude, just to put some respect on Mr. Pibb's name, dude, he did not have to get a doctorate and had a much better revenue fucking than Dr. Pepper over there. So like, fucking check yourself first of all.
Picked himself up by his bootstraps despite his lack of education and did amazing things. Koji, over to you then to Kate Irwin.
Look, I think any founder on this space worth their salt is going to say the sentiment score is high because survival's the name of the game, right? Like there, there's going to be ebbs and flows, right? There's going to be times when things are running hot, and the company's going to grow, and inevitably when things run super hot like that, it's going to get bloated. You're going to overextend yourself, or not necessarily overextend yourself at that point, but when things start to cool off, then you start to feel a little bit overextended. You're gonna have to pull the chute a little bit and pare down. And I think what we see a lot in Web3 actually is that like a lot of companies don't do that or do that too late, and then they just end up shutting down as opposed to let's trim the fat a little bit early. It's going to be painful. It's going to suck, but it's something that needs to get done in order for the company to survive, right? And I think that shows like a real intelligence and maturity to for the people running the company. And so I think my sentiment score is high as long as they keep doing what they're doing and they stay alive. Like that's all that really matters.
Tatted, I didn't get a sentiment score from you two. Is anybody willing to give me a real number here? 1 to 10? 10 being you
Yeah,
think it's
I'll give you a 9. A 9.
And 9. All right, let's go. Tatted, anything from you before I go to Kate Irwin?
Yeah, I'm gonna give him a 9, fully based off of Koji's points just now.
Let me also clarify for anybody listening too, this is not necessarily a 9 as far as like you should go buy all their assets because they're going to the moon. None of this is financial advice. Just the sentiment score of how the studio is doing, the way that they're maneuvering through this tumultuous, space as it can be sometimes. Kate Irwin, over to you. What's your take on Star Atlas?
Yeah, so I spoke with Michael Wagner back in March about how things were going, and he basically said like we're doing pretty well post FTX, and like that we've recovered was kind of his sentiment. He also emphasized that for him, like just focusing on making a fun game is actually not his like sort of mantra. It's actually a mantra. But that he totally recognizes that like Star Atlas is a crypto forward game, and I don't think he's ignoring that at all, which I think is really good. I think when you're building something like that with a team that's 73% smaller or even smaller than it was 2-3 years ago, you sort of have to recognize like what your scope is, what your focus is, and like double and triple down on that. I also think the gaming crypto gaming landscape has changed dramatically since 2023 when that like mass layoff occurred. So I think that he's made some smart choices. That said, I don't know like how much of a rush they feel like they're in to actually ship something. Um, when I played it in March, I was able to like putt around through space, and that was cool. And the graphics look great and stuff, but obviously there was like no one else in the world, and landing on planets was still like extremely buggy, like extremely like game breakingly buggy. Like I couldn't get out of the ship, and I don't know if it was my fault, but yeah, basically I think the game still has like a ways to go. So I'm a little disappointed that after 6 years there isn't more of like a functioning playable build. Um, but overall, like the fact that they are still around and that they haven't given up, I think is really cool and is promising. So I hope that they don't give up. I hope that Michael's able to ship something with whoever he's working with. I don't know how big their team is. I don't know if they're relying on outsourcers. Like, I don't know if their internal team is like less than 6 people and they're just outsourcing the whole game. Like, I think that would be important to know for me to really give a sentiment score. Like, what is sort of their workflow right now. But overall, like I think Michael's a smart guy. I think he's a passionate guy, and I'm really hopeful that they will ship something cool relatively soon.
You and me both, Kate. Yeah, one thing I'll say, anybody that follows Michael on Twitter over the past 6 months or so, I'm a big fan of him personally. He's a really nice guy. Seems really dedicated, has a background in finance, cares a lot about the financialized aspects of these things. And around the election, we could see that he was very enthusiastic and supportive of now President Trump. And he would say to me in conversations around, sponsoring Gamified and stuff, he'd be like, dude, whenever Trump is president, like it's gonna fucking rip. Like we're all gonna be, he was very much like drinking the Kool-Aid on, we're gonna rip whenever that happens. And so I think there was a little bit of a come to Jesus moment whenever that didn't happen and everything had to come back into perspective. And it's like, okay, well, how long do we have to wait out not being the economy that we're living in? And he's made the
I mean, technically we got the RIP, just not the way we wanted, man.
God bless. Spang, I'm getting a hot mic from you. I'm going to mute you unless you want to chime in. Let's go over to Matthew Buxton, and then Kevin Lambert.
Okay, I'm going to be honest here. I wish I could split my sentiment score, but I'm going to end up with a 5 if I can, because I'm always bullish on people who keep the lights on. I'm not necessarily bullish on doing it until absolutely everything is dead. But as long as the lights are on, as long as you're shipping, you have a chance. As long as you have money, you have a moat. But I'm going to be honest with you. I genuinely don't think this game in its current state, with this current configuration, with the scope and the dreams, is ever going to live up to what people expect. And to be honest, I don't think that short of pivoting into something smaller, casual, and successful, and actually bringing in money and doing that, it's this is just essentially looking for a Hail Mary until they can ship this thing. That's how I feel. I'm really bullish on the team for sticking it out and not giving up and constantly looking for stuff and shipping stuff. But I don't think this game is ever going to make it. I don't think you're going to see the Star Atlas that was promised. And even if you do, there are other games that are going to outcompete this. Like the EVE Online guys, they're building something that is going to kick the living shit out of this. There is also, Star Citizen, which is going to kick the living shit out of this because it's already got far more content, far more playable. This isn't the market to be in to make this game right now with what is needed to make that game what it needs to be. I mean, that game needs to be out, and I'm never a fan of selling a bunch of stuff before you have a game to put it in, because that just, for someone who loves free markets, apparently this is just a command market where you're just telling people it's going to be worth something. You can never really establish that until we've had people playing, which is 90% why this industry sucks so much, because we try to raise money from our communities by telling them that they're going to get something, as opposed to telling them you're just giving us this money to make this fantastic thing that we're sure you're going to love. And I got a little bit more negative when, making a fun game isn't the priority, because you can actually do better making smaller, fun games that are actually subsets of bigger genres. You can do a hell of a lot. There's a lot of innovation, a lot of small, cool, fun things you can do in space with what you've already built. But if you're just slimming down, looking for a Hail Mary and trying to ship stuff that's kind of not necessarily needed, and you're not looking for fun and you're looking for just the financial side, you're not going to make it. That's my score. I'm 9 on the studio for Keeper Shipping, 1 on Star Atlas.
Interesting. Appreciate the dichotomy between those two. Kevin Lambert, going to you, then to Lemz.
Yeah, I think they're probably 8 or 9 in how they're managing the situation today. A team that's doing that's valuing transparency over perfection, perhaps, and that is really good. And it's the sign of a team who knows how to handle this in probably the best way they can. Have they handled it with this much grace since the beginning? Arguable, right? Like, in my opinion, under promise and over deliver is absolutely the way you crush an unproven technology and market like Web3. Not a lot of studios are capable of doing that, or those that are realizing it too late. So a lot of folks just came out guns ablazing in 2021, 2022. They massively overpromised, and it's going to be really hard to Matt's point, to deliver up to those expectations. Some will do it, but man, boy, is that hard. I'd rather be on the other side of that. Like, let's constantly delight people with how much we're crushing what we said we were going to do. So I don't know, but for managing where they're at, I strongly agree with Koji's perspective here. They're really playing it well. Someone made the Star Citizen comparison. Like, the funding model was quite different. I think they had something like a 600 million crowdfunding campaign with shipped pre-sales. That's a lot different than a public token sale with NFT drops. Although there's still a lot of money there. It's just like the whole way that was done, and like the moat you build and the types of people that are behind you and waiting are different. So, I think Star Citizen's audience maybe might be a little bit more invested, and like there have been a lot of deposits made, so you can make some withdrawals from them as you're gliding into your final product. But it'll be interesting to see. I'm rooting for them. I think they're a great team. I know some folks on the team, talented people. I want to see that game succeed. Am a little bit worried though, based on the early promises.
Yeah, Star Citizen, basically once a year they get another article that is they have raised another $100 million this year through ship sales. They just keep selling them, and people somehow keep buying them. Lemz, to you, then to Dub, then Knock will finish it up.
Yeah, I'll just jump on that point that you said. Like, the amount of Star Citizen funding seems to be like trending upwards too. It feels like it's more frequently those like announcements come out where it was like it's crazy. I'm going to give Star Atlas like a solid 7 here. I was one of the people who thought after FTX they were dead in the water. Like, I was just like, there's no hope of them coming back, and was really impressed by their adaptability and the fact they've kept going and shipping. I definitely feel similarly to Kevin with the expectation debt that they have now, because people still believe in that vision of the full open world MMO space, like sci-fi MMORPG kind of thing, and that's unlikely to happen unless they get like tons more funding and can expand their team, and like even like it's a maybe it'll happen. But what I'm really impressed by is the fact they keep their community pretty engaged and generally positive about the direction of the project. Like, if you look at other teams from 2021 who haven't delivered on their promises, like most people, like they get flipped on. Like, Illuvium's a good example, right? Like, people have just like they're just pissed off now, and they're just like they hate the team. And the fact that Star Atlas have managed to like ship enough to keep people happy and keep the community engaged, and people like I've seen people who are down like low to mid 5 figures, and they're still like, oh, I still believe in the vision, still believe in the team. Like being able to evangelize a community that like other teams would kill to be able to do that, because that gives you more time to try and do things. Obviously, you're dealing with more expectation debt the longer it goes on, but I definitely think there's lessons to be learned from like how they've managed to like curate such a diehard fan base of believers who are like ride or die forever with them. So yeah, hats off to them for surviving and keep shipping, and I hope they manage to like do something. I'm very skeptical of the full UE5 open world game ever getting built, especially with the likes of Star Citizen. I would actually Star Citizen has also like pushed things off for so long and so many years now. I would love to like see a polymarket bet on like who ships a finished version of the open world MMORPG, like Star Citizen or Star Atlas. Star Citizen have a head start, but hey, Star Atlas, maybe they can catch up.
Cruising along. You have to wonder if they'll ever get there if they don't see enough traction with Sage and some of these other residual products that came out of the development of the main product. Knock with the last word.
Yeah, I'm gonna channel my inner Koji here and give my fellow panelists some shit for saying it's hard, so we shouldn't do it. I mean, imagine like we're building in Web3, guys. Like, building a game is difficult to begin with. Building a game in this space is probably idiotic. The idea that they shouldn't do it because it's difficult, I think, is just pure stupidity. I mean, you're talking about a bunch of games in that class: the No Man's Sky, the Eve Frontier. We're talking about Star Citizen and Star Atlas. All of these titles are like rapidly approaching a decade worth of development. No Man's Sky is a perfect example of a game that shipped in a terrible state, and then over the course of the next 7 years, continued to fix that product to the point now where they have 26,000 or 267,000 very positive reviews on Steam. By all accounts, the game has become a success, but it was an absolute dumpster fire when it launched because of the scope of the game that they're trying to build. Koji mentioned this earlier in this topic, but the best attribute that Michael and the team there have is, and I mean this in the absolute best way possible, but they're cockroaches. They will not die. And that's what you want to see from people who are building games in a very difficult industry. I talk about Sparkball all the time. I think Chandler is another example of a person who refuses to die, and they continue to ship that game. And these are the types of
Oh my
people
god.
that you want to have in this space. You can't kill them. They can't die. They're going to continue to do their thing. And they don't care about whether or not they don't have enough money today. They don't care about whether or not you dislike the way that they're approaching it. They don't care if you think it's hard. They're going to ship their title one way or another. They're going to get it out the door. Whether or not it's successful once that thing reaches full launch is a completely different story. But this idea that they shouldn't because it's difficult, or that other people are coming for their lunch, or that they should walk away and build something that's a little more watered down because everybody else like Nintendo and EA do it, is bullshit. Build the game that you have a vision for. They're talking about a space exploration MMO where you can land on a ton of different planets in different solar systems. Of course, the scope of that game is going to be fucking ridiculous. They might not be able to achieve it, but if they can do it, great. That's the sort of thing that we want to see from gaming. No Man's Sky started out as a dumpster fire. It slowly turned into one of the most beloved games of the last decade. And that is because they refused to fucking die when everybody else told them they should have just packed it in because they didn't deliver what they said they were going to deliver on day one. You want teams like this to continue building in the space. You want teams that won't die. And I think Michael Wagner and the team at Star Atlas are emblematic of the Solana ecosystem. If I had $1 for every time somebody told me Solana was going to die, I'd be a very rich man. And I think that that's true of Star Atlas as well. They're going to get that game out. Whether or not it's successful is an entirely different story, but I have no doubt in my mind that they will ship it.
Pays to be a cockroach. Dub, I saw your hand went up. I think that it was actually bugging on MySpace and you had it open for a while, so I'm going to go over to you.
Oh, dude, hands. Who fucking needs him, dude? Not us. And neither does fucking Swagner. And that's why this guy's a badass. Like, I just want to reemphasize Knox's point. The dude isn't just a cockroach. He's a cockroach that finds a way to keep building. Like a lot of other builders or teams out here find a way to keep the lights on, but they pause or, do this or that. And it seems like Swagner always actually produces builds and spends time progressing the product, even if it is at slower than what people expect. So 6.9 for the culture for Swagner.
Duh, put some fucking clothes on. You
Get
can't
over
walk
it.
around with your
Bricked up in the kitchen.
Sinjin's just fighting for his marriage, dude. He doesn't want you coming for wifey too hard. Gotta give a big shout out to Avalanche, the king of gaming chains, the official chain of Gamified. It's time to find out how they're conquering the cold with cutting edge technology in a community that's frosty as it is fierce. They're killing it with insane partnerships like FIFA, Visa, and Aether to bring the best of the blockchain. So bundle up, bring your A game, and craft your very own L1 to service all your blockchain gaming needs. I might take some of the sponsorship revenue and try to buy Dub some pants after this. Giddy up, gamers! Get ready to gallop in the Game 7 Nation. They've signed over 150 games, have 30 million wallets ready to rumble with their Mega MetaMask partnership, and come join the digital nation where you can get your citizenship so you can level up your life. Thanks to Game 7, the official infrastructure of Gamified. And the Farcade, the official game studio of Gamified, is turning everyday creators into game devs with tools so intuitive you can go from idea to playable game in minutes. And the best part, you don't need an audience. We'll give you one. Post your game directly into social feeds, compete with our creator contests, and you can walk away with cash prizes. It's game time, baby. Let's jump in to Off the Grid, introducing its deathmatch mode. This happened a couple of weeks ago, a 20-player free-for-all mode that people are now able to experience instead of just the Battle Royale. It's open for testing. The new mode features faster regens, a tighter combat arena. The game faced some criticisms for being difficult to start, but since introduced bot lobbies, in the battle royale mode, where for the first 2 games you just play against bots, so you have an opportunity to kind of learn the mechanics. The risk here is you're splitting your players into even more game modes now, plus bot lobbies, and you're diluting the player liquidity that is necessary in order to have a successful online title. We've seen this move from Shrapnel, which you can. It's a shrapnel thing, and is it necessary for battle royales to have these different game modes? I'm gonna go there. Koji, over to you.
I mean, something, something, Fortnite, trying new things, something, something, like someone's gonna say it. Like if you find that you have some good fundamentals, but like there's something slightly off, adjusting the gameplay and trying new things, either with new game modes, limited time modes, etc., and trying to find where your true footing is. It's the way to go. It goes back to what we were saying about cockroaches, man. You want to survive, you got to find the most fun version of your game, and good on them for not doubling down on one thing, but kind of expanding the net out a little wider. Because I think that's exactly what you got to do.
Fair enough. And so, Koji, would you expect them then to kill one of these after they see the data on what's performing better? Like, I think back to League of Legends, how they had 5v5 and 3v3, and now 3v3 doesn't exist anymore, but then ARAM came in, and ARAM is really popular on its own.
Yeah, I mean, it's the yada yada the Fortnite bit, right? But it's like, hey, uh, they tried a thing, and then
Oh no, the wilderness. The wilderness is
And
taking
then
him.
what? And then what?
We need to know.
And
All
then
right,
you won't believe number 7.
let's go. On that note, to Kevin Lambert. Kevin, tell us what Koji was about to say.
All right. He was no, I'm not sure exactly what I was on the edge of my seat too. But like I mean, the benefit of additional game modes, you get faster feedback loops, which is really good. Some BRs need variety, right? And the alternate game modes are basically market research. Under the disguise of like try this out. I think and Fortnite is probably the best case of something like that. Their main game mode was clearly not working, so they had to do something else. But the only downside of alternate game modes is it can bifurcate your audience and it can make your queue times go up because if you don't have enough liquidity and you don't use bots, then you can have a problem where like, wow, queue times just doubled. What the hell were they thinking adding this other game mode? But if you don't have that problem, I think other game modes are excellent. You learn so many things from making them. Like just does the audience want something a little bit different? Do they want a fresh take? Are they sick and tired of the repetitiveness of the main game mode? So, I think battle royales absolutely benefit from alternate game modes, not because like the battle royale format is broken, but I think just because people need options that serve different personas, mindsets, and ways of playing. And this is again, it's good if you can try one and see what the pros and cons of it are.
I'm going to knock, and then we're going to tag in Spang.
Yeah, we talk a lot about TTK or time to kill. I'd like to introduce a new metric called cost of death. And on the very low end, i.e., there is no cost of you dying in a game, is a free for all mode. I think team deathmatch is one step up from a free for all. You die, the other team gets a point. On the exact opposite end of that scale is something like Escape from Tarkov. If you die, you lose a bunch of time into building the kit that you put together. You lose gear and items that you need for progressing your character. The cost of dying there is incredibly high, and a step down from there is probably something like an OTG or a Fortnite where maybe you lose the gear that you've acquired during the game session, but there's no real other cost other than you don't get to play the game anymore. The problem with BRs is that at a base level, they have incredibly high costs of death. If you are trying to learn a game and you jump in and you die 13 seconds into that game, you are now back to queue. And then you're trying it again and you die 13 seconds into that game, you're then back to queue. And I think that that serves as a deterrent for new players who want to try out a game, especially as the actual BR matures. The cost of dying becomes even higher because the average skill of the average player has grown over time. So you look at something like Fortnite. One of the things that Fortnite did that really in the early days helped to build the scene from like a professional level was allow for things like Fortnite creative mode in which players could practice fighting against each other at a very low cost of death. I could jump into a lobby with Sam, we could fight each other for 3 or 4 hours, we pick up our guns, and we continue to play. As that progressed, it became specialized game modes where you could simulate things like the storm itself, and the cost of death is relatively low. You wait 30 seconds until that group of 10 people die, and then it kicks right back into another simulated game mode. Tarkov has recently implemented arena mode. Because it's so difficult to get into Tarkov, they've now given you a set where you have presets. You can jump into an arena mode. If you die, you respawn the next level. The whole point of this is that every time you die, you are learning a little bit more about those mechanics so that eventually you can be fed into the real game mode where the cost of death is very high. I think if you're a BR in today's day and age, you almost need a free for all or an arena mode or a team deathmatch to allow players who otherwise would be very discouraged from jumping into a game mode and dying to figure out how the mechanics work. How do the guns feel in this game? What sort of things should I be paying attention to? There's a lot of transferable skills from free for all game modes that you can take into the main game mode. Even Valorant has done this with free for all and team deathmatch. Like, it is a very important thing, and I think you're starting to see savvy devs of shooters understand that cost of death becomes a deterrent. And if that cost of death is too high and I die too many times at a high cost, I'm probably never going to play the game. I think that this is an absolutely incredible move from OTG. I don't think, even if it bifurcates audience in the short term, I think there's still a net benefit to allowing people to get into and get accustomed to the mechanics that exist within OTG before jumping into the really, expensive version of the game from like a cost of death perspective. So I love this. I think all BR should have some secondary or tertiary game mode where cost of dying is non-existent and allows you to get comfortable with the game before you jump into the main game mode.
The first example that you gave, Knock, of dying in 13 seconds doesn't bother me. What always pisses me off is whenever I don't see anybody, I spend 8 minutes getting stuff, and then I just die from getting shot in back of the head from like across the map. That's whenever I'm just like, fuck this shit, I'm done, I'd rather do chores. I'm gonna go over to Will Spangler.
Yeah, I'm so glad that everybody before me has gotten it out with why this is a really good decision for off the grid specifically, and talking about the big brain play here, in parallel to a battle royale and getting people involved. But like, this isn't a surprise. This isn't an unexpected development, at least in my opinion, because we have to think that like Gunzilla is the team that bought Game Informer. Like, you want to talk about big brain? This is like the Wojak that has a brain so big he's playing chess with his own brain. Like, that's how I view Gunzilla at the moment, and I think we're just going to keep seeing more like this. Like, the example of Fortnite I think is a good one, but Fortnite didn't know it wanted to be Fortnite. Gunzilla knows it wants to be Fortnite, and they are strategizing and moving in ways that are going to lead to that. So all of these kind of small developments, while they may seem to be rolling out slowly now, the Fortnite vision is there, and the pieces are really starting to fall together. So yeah, I'm a huge fan of this.
I love that take. Speaking of Game Informer and publications in general, great segue to go to Kate Irwin.
Okay. Yeah, I think like I don't know, this is it's kind of a big topic. Like we're kind of part of the conversation is about like should there be bot lobbies for new players? I think the answer is probably yes. I think again, like it's kind of hard to make an assessment without knowing more data. Like how many players does Off the Grid have right now? How many new players are they seeing every day? Like I think having data here would be very helpful to understand, you know, were gamers before just new players being thrown into games with experienced players because there just weren't enough other new players in these local servers. So I think like that's a really big question. Because Apex Legends, from what I understand, they're not bots. They are real players, and they just have enough players creating. Some of whom are creating alt accounts. Some of whom are like little kids maybe who are just kind of not really playing it seriously. But like those early Apex lobbies, from what I understand, like yes, every game has a problem with like bots that are just like whatever, but I think those are real players for better or worse. And so I just wonder if like that's a part of the issue, is that there just aren't enough players new in different servers creating accounts to have low latency, which sort of ties into this like multiplayer conversation that we had last week of like, are there enough new players playing this game, logging on, and enough to get low ping for all these areas? And I think that's the big question. So if anyone has data on that, I think that would really help illuminate the conversation too.
Yeah, really great question. I personally have no idea. I mean, you also have to deal with all of a sudden you're dealing with 24 hours a day as well, where there are times where, Dub is all of a sudden he's in Thailand and he wants to be able to play some off the grid, but, everybody's asleep over here, but not over there. And it gets super diluted super quickly. Let's go over to the Tatted Lawyer next.
Yeah, I'm going to say this is a great move for off the grid to start distinguishing itself, but they're absolutely still fighting a pretty significant uphill battle because a game that's fully a BR. If I play it and it's not better than Call of Duty or better than Fortnite, then why would I not just go back to both of those games and play those games? And I'm going to say Splitgate, that just came out like 2 weeks ago, is kind of going through that. I don't know if anybody's tried to play it, but some of my queue times on Splitgate are like 5-minute matchmaking queue times, which is so significantly different than obviously, let's say, my experience with Marvel Rivals the last couple months. So I think this isn't just an issue that's segue or siloed to off the grid or Web3 games. I think all battle royales and all like any kind of first person shooting games are having this struggle of how do we attract these users who are already so ingrained in the game that they like to play into our game. And right now it just doesn't seem like there's a huge exodus of gamers looking for newer games to play or new battle royales to get into versus the ones that they're already playing. And you can go down the line: Spellbreak, Scavengers, Knockout City. I'm sure Splitgate's probably going to die eventually. What was the X Defiant last year? Like, it's just such a hard gaming market to gain market share in that, unless you do something to solve these queue times, unless you maybe introduce bots into the game to replace some of the players so the queue times are shorter, I just think they're going to fail. And I also think the battle royale industry in itself is kind of oversaturated. People are starting to get tired of the genre. That's why some people were excited for Splitgate 2, and then Splitgate 2 basically just regurgitated what's already, out in the market again, which, it's fun for like a week, but then I'm going to go back to playing the games that I have been playing the last 5, 6, 7 years instead. So great move on their part. I still don't know if it's going to lead to, ultimate success, but still a great move in the initial.
My beloved Super 5 also struggling with queue times. They ended up going from having a 2v2 mode and a 4v4 mode to just a 3v3 mode. They consolidated it with a brand new one, and I'm not a big fan. I was a 2v2 player, and adding a third idiot to the mix, unfortunately, has ruined quite a few games. R3D, probably pronounced Red in the comments, says it's the best place to get epic hexes if you're a pro with the deathmatch mode. I've heard this from a few different things. He says the best players are just playing deathmatch and get in order to get a place in the top 3, because then you can secure that you'll get a great hex. So it's kind of removing the best players from the battle royale mode, for better or for worse. I'd be curious, Red, if you think that's a good thing or a bad thing, or have any take on that, because I'm not sure. Doug Hype also says I'm only here for the Dub and Sinjin sitcom happening in the back. Those double wanks. I appreciate that, Dub. Let's go over to Sinjin on that note, and then to Kate Irwin.
Yeah, this is a really difficult moment, because just like what Tad is saying, in the sense that like your window for success for a BR or a shooter is so fucking slim, right? It's so fucking slim. So like I know there's some guys on the panel who are saying like, oh, this is all right. We're gonna check out like different game modes. We're gonna find out what works or whatever like that. Fuck, man. Like any shooter does not really have that luxury, right? Because like you kind of have to nail it on the head right off the bat. If you're wavering here and you're going to try a different game mode because you're not sure what is the kind of best fit, and ultimately it does come down to like player liquidity, right? Now, I have a lot of experience in multiplayer games, like whether it's MMOs back in the day or like StarCraft, but specifically like launching them, especially for poker, because we don't calculate our revenue numbers or our metrics or KPIs based on uniques, daily uniques or monthly uniques or whatever like that. We calculate it specifically on hourly concurrent users, because if you have a 9-handed table, right, you need 9 players, but one table isn't going to cut it, right? You need them at different limits. You need, at different formats, whether it's 6-handed or heads up or whatever like that. The reason why is because the revenue is so dependent upon the number of tables and that liquidity going 24/7 that we just focus on just the concurrent user numbers, right? Which is very rare for other types of games, but because multiplayer liquidity is that fucking important for us. And so like the level of design and progression in terms of how we go to market with these kind of card games is the majority of how our marketing is developed. And most games and even publishers, they don't have that particular background. And in this case, like the market adoption really has to be reflected in the game itself. And then one thing that makes it even more difficult is if the game is too sweaty, right? You are turning off players when their first, first time user experience is getting sniped and you don't know where they get sniped. And if you look at Fortnite, the pros always complain at the beginning of the season because they always introduce this OP weapon, but it's the noobs that come and play the OP weapon until it like gets like nerfed, because it allows them to get kills and enjoy the game again, with this really like overpowered weapon and have fun. And then the pros get happier later when they balance the weapon. And I'm almost 100% sure that is done on purpose in order to engage, players who come back or players who are less skilled, right? Whenever you have an ultra sweaty game, right? Unless it's like such a hit, right? That's tough. So your retention is getting hit there. The other thing though too is like obviously wait times, right? Like you can calculate like what the drop off is by like how many minutes, not even minutes, like seconds you have to wait, right? Because you can look at your time, you can look at your daily 24-hour schedule of liquidity and concurrent users, right? And then you can see like how long the sessions are before the retention and everything else like this. And so like splitting up your liquidity in a multiplayer game launch is never the right move. It's absolutely never the right move, right? I mean, if you look at like Heroes of the Storm as well, they came out with 3 different maps and so on and so forth right at the beginning, right? And it's fucking Blizzard, it's with their IP, right? And that was a huge thing because the liquidity wasn't able to pool somewhere. Now, if they pull it off and the deathmatch becomes the one that they need to look at, that's great, right? But the fact of the matter is, I mean, like you can have a fantastic game, and if you don't have that player liquidity, and especially even if you put in bots, they don't help because bots don't play the same way. In actuality, the issue with bots is that actually making the bot perfect is easy. Making it play not perfect is the difficult part, right? And so like this is a really critical moment for off the grid. I wish them the best, right? But like again, like any game that's launching as a multiplayer game, right? It has to be an integrated design with the product and the market adoption for it. Because like all these things with extra lobbies and extra game modes or whatever like that, you can only fucking do that if you have enough player base for your core game. Otherwise, you're just causing yourself to like go down that hill even faster.
I got a DM from Peyton saying he doesn't have actual data here, but it's bot lobbies, or sorry, about bot lobbies. But to OGC's defense, he says cross compatibility has helped a lot, and he thinks they have more players than people are aware of because the majority of people killing people are console. I'm not exactly sure what that means. If Peyton wants to clarify,
Yeah, I can
but in the
clarify
meantime,
a little bit more. Like I've been playing OTG more often because I like team deathmatch for Noc specific point. I just don't get into enough gunfights to be effective in BR. So team deathmatch helps me just get mechanically better. So when it comes down to it, it those seem like there are like bot lobbies, Kate, but I was also say like a lot of the people and the complaints currently in the internal community is that majority of people like the pros like Kyra and Human are getting killed by console players because like the specific aim assist is just like too high. So like that's also what's currently the skin pack in OTG is console players versus PC gamers, and that's like why they're probably the best at like memeing on their own selves and like kind of doing that because people are getting so upset at the PC or at the console that like some of the PC players are switching over to um, controller just because the aim assist is just too strong. So a lot of the pros are kind of moving over to aim assisted controller, but just
Aren't you a keyboard turner,
I
Kevin?
am. So I just get killed. I'm not saying I'm good, Kevin. I'm just, like nothing in my last a minute has said that I'm good. I said I'm just trying to mechanically get better. But I would say that like when it comes down to it, though, I have been in some voice chats with console gamers, and they have been like, you know, I think they've been running ads in terms of like the demographic of the U.S. because I play at like Central Time, so a lot of people are playing at that time, and I think a lot of them are like really hyped up about the game or they on like voice comms and like the road runners like freak them out and all that kind of stuff. So there is like cool mechanics and I have had like out of like I don't know 7 games that I play, maybe like 2 of them has people like with a microphone and they are real people, but they're usually playing on console. But that's like me just playing off and on a few days.
Man, I haven't heard the insult keyboard turner in a long time. You like triggered something deep in my psychology with that one, Kevin. My heart dropped like I was 14 again, getting called out in a raid and being like, no, no, I'm not, guys. Kate Irwin, I'm going to you. We do have a couple more topics we wanted to get to, but excited to hear what your guys' takes are, and then we're gonna move on to the next one.
Oh my gosh, that's so funny. Yeah, so I mean I sort of am trying to answer my own question. Like we don't have the devs here, so they can't be like, yes, we have this many players per day. But we have, I guess, the unique active wallets data, which does not translate to players directly at all, but we can compare it like over time. So I guess there's some data showing November 2024 about they were fluctuating between like 100k 150k around between like 100 and 150k unique active wallets every day. Now we're looking at 225,000 unique active wallets every day, so most of that activity is still on the test net. So sort of like take it with a grain of salt, sort of all this whole unique active wallets thing. But it is interesting to see this many months later, from November to now, this many wallets still engaging. It says something about the sort of traction that's been had here. I mean, also it's another piece of data that's like kind of grain of salt is this guy who's an off the grid player basically tracked he basically said I made an alt account and did a test to see how many people in my lobbies were still playing the game after 3 weeks and four game across 4 games like total, like 3 weeks later who was still playing. And he says that he found that across 152 accounts, 40% of those players were inactive just 3 weeks later, but a little over 48% were still active after that period, and the rest were semi-active, whatever that means. So like this is all data to like with a grain of salt, but I mean, for him, it was like, wow, they are such good retention. And I'm like, well, it's only 152 accounts. And like, how do we know? So I think a lot of this is like, we can kind of speculate around the retention and like what this is looking like for off the grid. But without more data, it's hard to really make any firm conclusions.
Yeah, absolutely. Definitely don't want to walk away with anything too dramatic about one way or the other here, but interesting discussion nonetheless. Matthew Buxton, then Knock, then we're moving on.
Oh, so I'd like to say, bring it back to Unreal Tournament 2004, where you had like a billion different game modes where you could play like assault things with giant tanks, and you could have like before there was even Halo, there was people playing this and doing insta-gib mode, setting up your own lobbies with your friends, doing like crazy fun shit because player liquidity was never such the issue it is when we've had 20 years of getting bored of that kind of game and then doing something that then requires a bunch more players with, as Nock said, a much higher penalty for death. And that was the new thing. That was fresh, that was new. Because before it used to get just absolutely painful to play like one of the Halos where you would just spawn bunny hopping instantly to be killed by someone who spawned behind you, bunny hopping, killing you, and nothing was defendable. And you couldn't hide anywhere. Anyone was called a camper if they stopped for more than about 3 seconds, and basically everything felt like it was no cover. And I think like they've made a fantastic game. They've made a like a hugely intricate sort of world and things like that. And I personally think like this player liquidity shit is overblown because as long as everyone in the game is retainable and the wait times are low, I mean, that's the only thing is like, and you have small wait times because you're not actually running that many games. Yes, you can. Like if you can fill a lobby, any lobby for any game and then just push it, then you can. It's just why that's taking, because if you're only doing like a 2v2, then you need 4 people and in that match that require multiple teams to do this. It's going to take a huge amount of time. The more people you need for a successful game to happen, then the longer the wait times are. So bringing in modes that you can play again, and there's smaller modes and all of that, that you have to, because you've got to think that a lot of kids and that have never played the 20 years of fast, fun games to get bored of this, right? And consoles, if you look at who they're marketed to kind of like millennials, later Gen Zs who've grown up with consoles because they don't make kids games on expensive consoles anymore, as Tatted was saying about Nintendo. You're looking at people who've been playing consoles since they first got their first Xbox One, and they expect to have that kind of game. They expect to have something that's easy to get into and all the rest of it. So as long as you keep the wait times low, then theoretically you should have good games. And that retention, even though it's a very small sample, is pretty crazy. Because if you look at any console game and you look at the first bronze medal in anything, you'd struggle to see about above 50% if you just look at the achievements. And that's the easiest medal to get. That's like I walked out of the door, and these are usually like $60, $70 price games. So to actually have people still in any way active, even out of a sample of 150, it's pretty incredible. So I just say like they probably need more modes. They probably need more ways of doing this because this is Battle Royale was a good sort of kickoff to the other genres that were just expendable. Um, there's got to be something for those people who've never played anything else to get into the game and to get used to it and to actually enjoy it. And I think the more they can do to keep the queues down, it doesn't really matter if they're running hundreds of the same kind of games, as long as they're getting everyone to play in a very short time, play something that they like, get items that they want, then I think they're going to do well.
Great take from Matthew Buxton. Knock with the last word.
Yeah, I kind of want to like take a step back from this idea that this is like a unique issue that OTG is having from like a player liquidity perspective. Play a game of Fortnite. If you've played a game of Fortnite in the last 2 years, 30%, 40% of the total players that you're playing are the traditional bot names, verb noun number, fucking Sunnier Deer 34. Like most of the characters, most of the people that you're competing against are bots. And Fortnite, and I'm a firm believer as this is somebody who spent a lot of time in the early days of Fortnite, especially around coaching professional players, that Fortnite has done a better job of getting people accustomed to mechanics within that system. And the cost of dying is decreasing every single day because there's so many different ways to get into a game of Fortnite without having to jump straight into the builds BR. And I think that that's been more welcoming to new players within that ecosystem. And it's part of the reason why they're still successful 8 years after launch. That being said, the entire BR genre has this issue. Dying is too expensive in a BR game. Fortnite just reached its lowest number of monthly players in the last 2 years. It's reaching lows that you haven't really seen since the game is launched. And it's not to say that Fortnite is struggling or Fortnite isn't a great game, but fewer and fewer people are playing BR modes because BRs are just expensive to get into. This isn't a unique OTG problem, and OTG is adopting things that we've seen from other BR games. Find success in bringing more players into the door, getting them accustomed with the experience, and then hopefully pushing them towards that main game mode. But in the case of something like Fortnite, even if you don't go play builds, there's no builds, there's 57 different game modes that you can play on Fortnite Creative. There's a way to get people into the ecosystem. That is incredibly important here. I think that this is a genre issue, not an OTG unique issue. Every single BR is struggling with player liquidity because it is too expensive to die and it is too harsh an onboarding experience, especially in an established title.
Great stuff, Knock. All right, some great comments as well. This one really brought people out into the multi-paragraph comment era of their lives. Doug Hype with the saying what Peyton says is true. A lot of console gamers, the fact that they can fill 2 modes easily is pretty telling with OTG. Seems like it's mostly real people. So Doug is excited. Red also chiming in. His comments are a little bit too long for me to read here, but if anybody wants to get a little bit more nuance on somebody that's playing a lot of the console mode, feel free to read his comment. And then D2 Hander also saying, I think it's a game mode issue. I think back to Halo with Forge mode, TF2 with Capture the Flag, and even CSGO and Gary's mod with Prop Hunt. We need an X game mode natively made by Web3 studios that introduce a new meta into the player base. That's how you migrate users from legacy games to newer games. Seems like we're only getting the same modes that we like with a unique flavor only available at that game. Appreciate you, D2 Hander, for also chiming in. We're moving on to the final boss, the last topic of the day. It's a game mode where panelists are not allowed to fence it. You must take a stance one way or the other. If you say, I agree with everyone that said things before me or so-and-so took my point, I'm just going to mute you and move on because this is the final boss. We got to get a little spicy. An interesting topic came up in the Wolves and Friends Telegram chat. Speaking about game assets, quote, no matter how much fun I'm having, sorry, tripping over my words today, or how much I love something, at a certain amount of money, things become financial decisions, even when you don't want them to be. This was a commentary on sort of why Web3 gaming is in a tough spot, because you buy these assets because you like the asset, you're an ideal sort of customer and holder of this thing, but whenever your NFT is worth $7,000 and you don't think it's going to keep going up in value, it's really hard to say like, oh no, it's about more than money, because $7,000 is like months and months of rent and can take care of your family. And so it creates this distortion even for the core audience that is supposed to be super excited about just holding these things because they're excited about the intellectual property. I mean, Dub on this panel has a $50-some thousand parallel NFT, and it's really hard not to think about that financially in one way or another. I'm going to go to Kevin Lambert first, then we'll tag in Knock.
Absolutely, financialization of gaming changes how you feel when you play, in so many ways, right? Like even just taking it outside of games for 1 second and saying like, "Hey, I've got this great PFP. Like, let's all like go back to the euphoric 2021 days where you're in these communities. You have a blue chip PFP. You're kicking it. You're in the community, and you're like, well." Either I and the thing has gone up to like 5 figures or 6 figures or whatever it is, and you're like, do I sell that and like, you know, do something great for my personal life, my family, or do I like keep it and so that I can stay in this community? That's a really crappy choice to have to make, right? So I think, you know, some of the products that came after that didn't force people to have to make that binary choice like that. But in gaming, you know, like I tweeted about something a few months ago called the overjustification effect, which is there was a study done years ago that went something like this. Kids who love to play the piano just played it every day because they love the experience and they would do it on their own. They started paying them $20 a day for weeks to play the piano, and they're like, get paid to do what I already love? It's amazing. And then what they did is after like 6 or 8 weeks, they removed the $20. What do you think happened? A lot of people stopped playing the piano, and you're like, wait a minute, what? Did the piano get crappier? Of course not, but their motivation to play got replaced by the financial incentives because you can't ignore that. And so now this activity that was amazing and fun intrinsically, because their motivation shifted, they don't want to do it anymore. The same exact thing happens in games if you try to blend those two motivations together and you don't do it well. So yes, when you have things that get financial and your motivation shifts as a result of that, or you get put in that weird binary, do I keep playing or do I take this profit and not be able to enjoy the game as much? It absolutely wrecks the experience. So you got to be really careful.
Really, really interesting stuff, Kevin. Any insight into how you're approaching that with blueprints coming to Project O? Any pitfalls that you're trying to avoid or methodology you're employing here?
Yeah, we are approaching it in a way that aims to not blend those motivations, but have them live side by side on either side of a small fence. So if you enjoy both of those motivations, you're actually two different personas in our world. And that's scalable in the way that like physical collectible games have used it, right? There are people who play Magic the Gathering and they just let six-figure collections sit on their shelves because they might play again someday. They're not even concerned with the value. On the other side of that spectrum, you got people who like open packs, throw away the commons, sleeve the rares, send case the mythics and get them graded. And they also enjoy playing the game. So you can support both of those, but you don't blend them together. You're actually two different personas, and you can enjoy doing both of those things or one of those things, and they don't cannibalize the other. So as a collector, you expect the financial value to get high. As a player, you don't, but if you jump into the collector world, it could, right? So we just fenced those in our product, and so we shouldn't have the downside if this hypothesis works correctly. We'll see, but we shouldn't have the downside of a blended motivation experience.
Love that. Thanks for giving more perspective. Let's go to Knock, and then we'll tag in Matthew Buxton.
Yeah, I mean, listen, I'll say this with the preface of, if you're a child and you've been spending money, then I think that probably, yeah, there should be some separation here of the game and the financialization. But if you're an adult spending your own fucking money on games, I think that this becomes like an impulse issue for a lot of people. And I say this as somebody who has a wild collection of Pokemon cards and skins and fucking battle passes on every game that I've ever played. I absolutely have an impulse issue, but the financialization of me buying those things does not make me want to stop playing the game. I'm buying those things because I played the game, or I wanted to play the game, or I've played it in the past and I'm stopping now, but I still am attached to like the lore of that particular game. I think that when you're spending money in a game, you should be getting something out of it. So for some people, that's the ability to flex a skin. For people, other people, like to Kevin's point, it's the collectible a point of things. In Magic the Gathering, they actually sell two different types of packs. They have play boosters and collector boosters that are specifically meant to target this dichotomy of players. For others, like myself, you have a fucking compulsion issue where I've bought every battle pass since 2017 in Fortnite. I can't fucking stop now, so I continue to buy that thing. But I'm still getting something out of it. I get the peace of mind that I know that I'm continuing my collection. Tony V is a great example of this. Man's bought every single Marvel Rivals skin that has ever been released. I don't think that Tony enjoys the game less because he's spending money. I also, to his own admission, don't believe that Tony feels like he has to continue to play the game because he's spending money, because he's even said, I haven't played the game in a month, but I continue to buy every skin because for me, it's a collectible piece. I don't like this idea that just because you spend money on a particular game, it has to take away from the gameplay experience. I think if you're a gambler and you're addicted to the idea of gambling for rare skins, sure, maybe that's a problem. But I think that this is more than anything an impulse issue for a lot of people when you get to the level where the financial dollars in affects the enjoyment out of whatever that financial dollar is being used for. So flexing, collecting, just making sure that you have the collectibles. For me, I strongly disagree with this take. I like the idea that you can spend money on games without having to play the games, and it shouldn't expend or affect your ability to enjoy that game's ecosystem. I buy Avatar The Last Airbender skins in every single game that has ever launched a collab with them. I don't play half of them. I don't even remember the names of the most recent one that I purchased, but I like collecting Avatar shit. So now I know that if I ever play whatever the fuck the game was that I spent $25 on that bundle, I will have the Avatar skins that they released there. For me, that's more than enough. There's a reason why I'm spending those dollars, and I don't think it affects my relationship with those games.
But Knock, people can just right click and save on those JPEGs, and they'll have them too, right?
Totally fair. Yeah, fuck.
I know this is going to be a spicy one, so I'm going to start asking people for their MVPs as well. Matthew Buxton, over to you for your take on sort of the toxic nature of financializing these things and how we might be able to overcome it, but still keep some of the aspects of it that we like, and also your MVP vote.
Okay, so I'm going to go for MVP for Knock because really agree with him at the best of times. I love his takes. I think we to see eye to eye on virtually nothing in the space. I love his conviction, and I do believe that both of us are going to right as well. When it comes to this, though, this financialization, I don't think there's a single issue with people spending money. It's when you give them money. It's when you give them money, and I still believe that you cannot start to have games that are going to be successful at the scale we see in mobile, where 80% of the money is gambling or pseudo gambling, where you can't take anything out. Putting money into a game has never been a problem. We've seen this over the last God knows how many years. I mean, the games I've worked on, they were turning millions a day, 3 million a day, 300,000 a day. And then if you turn the advertising off even more, like people will throw money at games. You give them money out, you confuse them. And it's really difficult to do. And I think it does change the motivation. As soon as you start giving them money, especially in a form of token, which is instantly fungible, they're going to rinse that and they're going to get that money. And that's where that piano problem comes in. If you're literally playing the game to get that token out every day and that token drops in value, and suddenly you're going to start looking for other games on the horizon where that doesn't happen. I mean, many of us founders have had farmers in, and you have to continually watch how much they're getting out. And as soon as it goes down, they switch to another game. We also have quest systems in our games, which make it even easier for people to discover other games that are going to give them more money. And the idea is that farmers turning up and getting paid like neurosurgeons just for turning up makes them entitled bastards. And I've seen some of that. I've seen some of that. And I think it's our fault as players because we struggle to get this right. We really struggle to get it right. It does completely change everything as soon as you're giving them something fungible. I think with NFTs, with collectibles, those things cannot just be enforced to be valuable before they're in the game. The game and the play and the actual use of this and the law behind it is to make those things valuable. I think nothing in a game should be sold for retarded amounts of money. I don't think any game should succeed when you're having to buy like a 1 or 2 grand NFT to get into that game because you are never going to get the kind of players that actually will throw hundreds of thousands into those games because they don't do it by dropping 10 grand at once. They drop that 10 grand on thousands of different items in the same day, yes. But we're still doing the $99 packs on that. We're not giving them like $1,000, $3,000 items. We're giving them this whole sense that they get a lot for their money. You get a lot for your money. You get a lot of gameplay for your money. As soon as we say one of those things that you bought, well, possibly you can sell it tomorrow for 200. What are they going to do? They're going to whale into the things that they can make money on. And that completely corrupts why they're spending the money in the first place. I do believe that little fences, clever ways of doing it, and bringing gambling into it is the safest bet. I only think that gambling style mechanics and pseudo gambling and staking, where you actually have to risk something to earn something, at the moment is the chance. I would never trust a crafting mechanic where you can build something for free and get money out of it because that will absolutely destroy the motivation of your players. That's my take. I think it completely does change it when money comes out to the players.
There's a great comment in the audience again from D2 Hander. He says financialization works way better with lower value individual assets, higher volume, easier to get into, etc. He says there should be a few uber rare assets like CS:GO knife skins, but keep that supply super low. Ideally, a game asset should be a few bucks to get into, and the teams should focus on the volume of trades for their revenue. Interesting approach there. I want to hear from Sinjin, then I'm going to Kohji.
Yeah, so I'm gonna have a hot take here. I would say that financialization does not ruin the game, with the caveat that the game has to be that like fucking amazing, right? Look at WoW. Okay, is there financialization here? And we're not talking about purchasing stuff. We're talking about going in there and extracting or trading it out, and whether it's on eBay or whatever, and then you are looking at the game no longer as a game, but as a way to extract or make money from it. And that's a big difference than purchasing stuff, right? And if the game is that good, right, then the financialization of it in some ways, bifurcates the user base. Some of them were not playing the game for financialization, but when they realize, hey, okay, I can make money from this, okay, I'm gonna make my own pawn shop and corner the market on these items here. I'm gonna make money from it, and then they drop off from being a pure player for entertainment to someone who is possibly adding to or the frustration of the game, but they've taken on a different economic role. There's this thing in the casino market. We say this: we're not trying to make people into gamblers. We're just trying to find out who is one. So when I meet someone and they say, "Oh, I don't gamble. Like I don't have a gambling bone in my body," I go, "Have you been to a casino? Have you gambled in a casino?" They're like, "No." And I go, "You don't fucking get to tell me that you're not a gambler until you actually have tried to gamble, and then you can walk away, right?" And what I mean by that is like, once you add in financialization, you're going to find out who actually are the gamblers in the game, right? But if the game, though, is so entertaining, and that's the key driver, right? That financialization will, definitely have ripple effects, but a certain amount of your player base will start to go towards that. On the flip side, exactly what Matt was saying about risk reward games. Risk reward games actually become better with financialization. So if you think about like blackjack, like all of you guys at one point in your lives, you're going to teach your nephew or your son how to play blackjack because they want to learn how to play it. And you're not going to call it blackjack. You're going to say it's 21. And they're going to be, wow, this is so cool. And you are going to be bored out of your skull after like 20 minutes of playing it, even if they want to keep playing it. Because these games are not fun games to play unless there is risk involved. But once there is risk involved, right? You can play poker without any chips for like all of like 20 minutes. But once there's chips involved, right? Some people will literally play for 3 days straight, right? Because there's a risk and reward aspect in the game itself that the financialization of it adds to the stakes, the anticipation, the excitement, the anxiety, and so on and so forth, right? But all of it at the end of the day, when we talk about Web3, it comes down to this, right? Web3 by its nature is already like have that aspect of financialization. So in this particular case, right, if you don't make a game that has a solid motherfucking entertainment game loop to drive that game forward, what will end up happening is that, yeah, some people will play it, but at a certain point, when the extractors or people who are just solely playing as a trader or to financialize the game exceed a certain percentage. And I would say in poker, that's probably around like 25% of your player base. So if 25% of your player base at any given game, if you think of it in a house game, okay, you're playing in a house game in poker, and like, what a quarter of the table, they're playing to win. And so they're like fucking like, they come with their sunglasses and their hoodies, and it's supposed to be a good home game. We're supposed to smoke cigars and whiskey, and they're being total dicks, and they're just trying to like win the money, right? If like a couple of guys are like that, it's okay. But what's more fun is like when everyone's just like throwing and splashing the pot and stuff like that. But if it's like half the table or more than half the table, right? That whole game is dead. It's no longer fun. You might as well start taking rake and making an illegal game to make money off of it, because that's what everyone's doing. And it totally changed the game. So like this entire thing about like the debate of like whether games should be fun in Web3. Okay, you guys are all fucking stupid who doesn't say that like it absolutely has to be so fucking fun that it can balance out the financialization. Oh, my MVP is Kevin. Although Matt has some fantastic taste, only because I've been playing his playtest to practice for the tournament, and I love Project O. It's so fucking good. And Kevin, thank you for letting me get in. I know the Apex probably didn't want me to get in. No, I'm just kidding. He was pretty good.
Way to bring it home, Sinjin. I was just going to say, got to give me the MVP. I'm also sad that I won't be able to defend the throne on Saturday for that tournament because it's my fiance's birthday celebration. So unfortunately, the first tournament that I'm going to miss, down bad for that one. But Sarah's worth it. I guess. Fine. Koji, over to you.
Yeah, I mean, everyone makes some good points here, but I think it's like kind of silly. Financialization in gaming has always existed. It just hasn't been so clear cut or made as easy, let's just say. But like people have been selling their WoW accounts and farming gold and whatever ways people can eke out money out of a game. Like it's already happened. So to be like, hey, it changes everything. Like uh, to Kevin's point, there are certain archetypes that are going to be in for certain things, and some of those players are going to be financially motivated, and some of those players are going to play for fun. And I also agree with the comment that you read out earlier. Like it depends on scale, right? I think that like we live in a a world of entitlement right now in Web3, where like if players aren't getting a like living wage playing a game, they're like, this is bullshit. Or not even playing a game, just like with an airdrop. They're like, I spent all this time farming this airdrop and I didn't make a fucking $1 billion. This company should be wiped off the face of the earth or whatever. Like, no, it should never be that way. I think that like if you're going to add some element of financialization in the game, it should be something akin to like Magic the Gathering. Most of those cards are worth pennies. If you get a card worth over a couple dollars, it's like, oh, that's pretty great. And then if you get one that's like, in the 20s or 50s, you're like, holy shit, I hit one of the chase cards, right? It's not as if like you're ripping packs looking for millions of dollars. And so I think that like we just have to reframe the way that some of the financialization is being done currently in these games, or the way that certain gamers are looking at the financialization in these games. And it should be fine. Um, but yeah, I don't know. I think people are just like in the space are completely out to lunch. They've sort of lost their minds. Um, as far as MVP on the space is concerned, I'm gonna go with my fellow Torontonian Knock, because I feel like I've agreed with everything that he said thus far on this space, which doesn't always happen. But I'm we're completely aligned this time. So Knock MVP.
Wait, I was like I low key like grew up in the suburbs of Toronto also.
Oh, nice. I didn't know that. Okay, you can be co-MVP.
Fun fact.
50-50 splitting the vote between the Torontonians, which I just found out is a word. We only have 5 minutes left in the show. We got to go quick, tatted lawyer, and then to Dub.
Yes, sorry. Financialization of games. I'm going to say here that it's. I actually don't think it's as degrading as a lot of people are saying on this chat. I actually think financialization in games can work really, really well if it's done well. I can't remember who said it before, but they had mentioned lowering the cost of various different assets. Like right now, a lot of things in Web3 gaming are like, oh, $1,000 for this asset. I saw like Maple Story had a $26,000 sale. Like the average gamer is looking at that like, what do you mean? Like, what are these prices? What are these costs? Like, I'm already priced out. Like, if I'm a normal like gamer and I think this is cool, and then I see that somebody has a $26,000 sale, I immediately think I am priced out of whatever this is. It's too rich for my blood. I'm just going to go back to playing these games that I can't get any financial incentive from. And it's just really a lack of understanding, a lack of exposure. But that's generally just how people or how consumers are and how they act and how they think. Now, I love to reference this game, and I know that a lot of people on the panel hate it, but I think Nitros did a really, really good job of this, being basically saying you're not allowed to buy, sell, or trade anything until you get to a certain level. So they really, really focused on this idea of concurrent player base, and then getting that same concurrent player base having to actually play the game and level up to a certain point before they can sell anything. So what that does is it takes out really this idea that I'm working, or excuse me, I'm playing this game for a job, and it really allows players to say, I either really, really like this game and I want to interact in the economy, or I don't, and I'm going to stop playing it. And that's why the average player time on that game is roughly 6 hours, because some people are going to love it, some people are going to hate it, and the people that love it are trading and they're having fun. The people that hate it are going on to the next game. And the game isn't all about this financialization economy where you can trade things back and forth. People play the game because they just enjoy it. So I do think if it's done in a proper way with a proper approach, it can be done really, really well. I think Web3 focuses way too heavily on the financialization of things, that people are so interested in just making a quick buck, which of course they are, but I think that's really more from the degenerate side of things, and less from the actual gamer side of things. So if done well, I think it can work really, really well. I just think outside a few notable examples, it has not been done well yet. My MVP for this round has to be Sinjin for his beautiful take on Dub during his speech before. Also, he said some really good takes about our conversation today, but that was my favorite thing. But Sam, you still are my MVP as well for that beautiful introduction from earlier.
Thanks, man. 2 hours later, he still remembers. I appreciate you. I'm going to Dub, Knock, and Lemz. Then we're going to wrap this bad boy up.
Yeah, dude. Obviously, I'm all for financialization of the games. There's plenty of ways to cook a chicken, and I just want to eat more chicken. So let's keep doing it. And I would also argue that the financialization of the games in our space is what's keeping them around for longer and having more shots on goal. I mean, I played the whatever Ponzi on base around the heroes. I can't even remember the name of it anymore, but I played that thing long before or long after it was dead, and I don't think anyone really does that. And we see that consistently in Web3 gaming just because people are super married to their bags and not willing to leave it. And I'm going to give MVP to Sinjin so I can hopefully one day leave his house alive. But also he, is just killing it on everything he's saying too. And, mad props to him on pushing through on his own agenda, setting up a new fucking Twitter account and, not giving up on what he wants to do with MAYG. And I'm freaking stoked to be here in person to see it launch.
Did you give your MVP, Dub?
Yeah, that whole rant was saying Sinjin was MVP.
Oh,
Are you paying attention? Can
I
you
was
start the queue on
sorry. I
Sparkball?
was just
Thanks.
thinking about you not wearing pants. I got blacked out, dude. It was the whole thing. Knock over to
I'm
you.
wearing fucking pants. He's the one not wearing pants. It's a weird household.
Knock over to you.
You fucking racist. We're Korean. I can do whatever the fuck I want to do in my house. Stop showing off your schlong to my wife.
Yikes! Knock, take us away from this
Is
horrible
it
tangent.
safe to unmute? I'm gonna give my MVP to Kevin for a couple of his takes earlier in the episode. I just wanted to add one of the things that makes me laugh so frequently about this space is that the issue seems to be always pointed at play to airdrop, play to earn, the financialization of the ecosystem, and never at the game's ability to retain players post financialization event, which is just absurd to me. The example that everybody loves to use in this game and in this ecosystem is Fortnite. Fortnite literally ran the world's largest play to airdrop campaign for 18 months to the tune of $180 million. If you had a mobile phone, a single wrinkle in your brain, and two fucking thumbs and a pulse, you could earn $300 or $400 a week every single weekend for a year and a half by just playing Fortnite. They then followed that up by incentivizing the creator code, which was a purely incentivization financialization method to allow content creators to then drive drones of human beings to go and purchase. Content creators, very much similar to the way they do in Web3, just farm their audience to collect pennies of every dollar that was spent. And then on top of all of that, when they launched Fortnite Creative Mode, they juiced the shit out of the prize pool for the first 10 or 15 people to create anything that was even half decent in order to get people to pay attention to these things. Financialization, especially giving money back to players, absolutely can work, but it requires having some real depth to the game that you're building and not a bunch of bullshit after the airdrop is complete. Fortnite ran the world's largest play to airdrop campaign. Everybody seems to gloss over that fact. The only reason why that game blew up the way that it did is because every single content creator in the ecosystem for almost 2 entire years streamed Fortnite daily because they knew that every weekend they had an opportunity to make money.
Lemz then to Spang.
Yeah, I think financialization, it's like we talk about a lot of things. It's not binary, this or that. It's a scale, right? And for some games it's just not going to work really well. But for some games it will work really well. And for some games they'll go like full on degen financialization and there'll be an audience for that and it'll be like that niche subset. But I think also part of it is the audience we have here today, because we're all like hyper fixated on the financialized aspects of like Web3 in general, and then gaming is just like a part of that, is that every time someone pulls a rare or pulls like whatever, the first question someone asks is, "Oh, what's it worth?" or what's the secondary price of it? But I think that will also change over time as we have more gamers and just like regular gamers coming into the space and playing these games. Then there'll be more of that collectability aspect. And I think we will see a little bit of the financialization. It'll still exist, but it won't be as prevalent in conversation just because the demographic of people will have changed over time. And it's going to just take time for that to happen and come. But overall, I think it's still okay. And then just know that certain games is not going to work for, even though it totally does, quote unquote, like destroy certain games or the way people think about things because their motivations are different if they're purely financially motivated. But once the audience changes, I think that'll evolve quite a bit. And I just want to see more like blockchain integrations in general in games, even if some of that's like soulbound stuff and like, you know, player identity stuff, where it doesn't necessarily have to be a secondary tradable asset, but it's still like connected and on chain. And I think it was Matthew mentioned earlier as well. Like tokens, I think are something that are more driven to financialization. NFTs, I think people actually just genuinely like collecting them more, even though yes, they still have a value and a secondary value. There's something more. It feels like more like a, you know, like card games. Like we always use that analogy. That's why I think NFTs are just more suited to gaming in general. But then MVP for the episode got to be Gnoc. Gnoc absolutely crushed it today. So GG's Gnoc.
Not cruising in those MVP votes. Spang gets the last word for the show.
Yeah. I'll save you my take because Kevin took the words right out of my mouth, and that's going to be my MVP vote as well. One for getting me on Claire Obscura by publicly shaming me, and two for just hitting the nail square on the head of why we're all here. You know, gaming has become so big that the idea of targeting a single audience is archaic, and you know, Web3 is what allows us to get better at, you know, serving and meeting these needs, and that's exactly where financialization comes in. How do we allow these communities to support themselves automatically? And it's a really exciting thing. So good stuff, Kevin.
Love it. Kevin and Kate still owe me MVP votes. Kevin, over to you.
I'm gonna give mine to Koji. I feel like on the D&D character spectrum, Koji is a little bit more on the chaotic good side of the spectrum. And apologies if I've mischaracterized you. Whereas I'm a little bit more in the lawful spectrum, but we're still very. I feel like there's a lot of similar philosophies. So your takes resonate pretty strongly with me, and I like the ones you had today. Going with Koji.
Chaotic good is exactly how I would describe Koji as well. Kate, with the MVP vote, who you got?
Oh no. I don't know. I can't pick just one person. Yeah, yeah. I think, you know, I'm gonna be diplomatic. I'm gonna say Dub, because it's Dub.
And he got Big Schlong 88.
You have just ruined Sinjin's next 2 weeks of existence, where he just has to hear Dub flaunt this MVP vote around the house for the rest of time. All right, that means we get. Oh, wait. Let me tally the votes. Actually, I'm gonna do the ad read. Lemz, tally the votes. Let me know. I'm not sure. I think it's a split between Kevin and Gnoc. But welcome to the chain where chills meet thrills and Frost fuels future. Avalanche is the official blockchain of gamified, and your front row pass to the frostbitten frontier of fun with a $100 billion AI fund, melting minds and collabing with titans like Gunzilla Games, T1 Esports, Solo Leveling. This snowstorm of innovation has sub-zero latency. This is the summit where speed meets style and subnets snap into place, so strap in your snow boots, pack your privy wallet, and plow headfirst into the powder with this Web3 gaming whiteout in the official chain of gamified. And gather around builders and believers. It's time to grant yourself a future worth playing. You've heard about skill trees, and Game 7 is growing a contribution forest. Summon isn't just a protocol, it's a passport to permanence. Your actions get anchored and your influence gets immortalized. Thank you to the official infrastructure of Gamified. When millions play games every day, but only a few build them, the Farcade is flipping that script with no-code tools, on-chain publishing, and built-in social distribution. Come play mobile games in minutes and get ready for players and real feedback. It's game time, baby. All right, who we got, Lemz?
We got Kevin with MVP. I thought it was a tie at first, but now Kevin squeezed it out with one extra vote.
Jeez, GG's, not even close, Nick. Or Gnoc, GG easy. Kevin, over to you. Welcome to your minute of FaceTime. I'm delusional today, dude.
Dude, that's awesome. Thank you. Wow, what can I say? I mean, in the spirit of attempting to underpromise and overdeliver, I'm not going to get out here and say we're going to crush Hearthstone and Marvel Snap. We are just trying to bring a mobile native competitive TCG with a next generation digital collector experience for people like Gnoc who love to collect things even if they don't play the game. That is one of our patterns that we're hoping to light up. So trying to, we're here in Web3 because we're trying to show the experience of ownership, things that go beyond, but you can sell it. You can also sell it, but they go beyond you can sell it. And we're just trying to make a hit game that will crush in Web 2 and therefore in Web3, not just crush in Web3. And you can be the judge. Play our play tests, hop in our Discord. We're letting people play and tell us if we're doing it right, if we're doing it wrong, or what you would like to see, because we still have another, year or so until we're worldwide launched everywhere with all of the latest and greatest. But we'll probably have a version of the game out to the world at the end of this year in maybe an open beta or soft launch.
I can't wait, Kevin. Congratulations on all the progress you've made so far. Big thank you to all of our amazing panelists. Kate Irwin, back 2 weeks in a row. Great to have you, Kate. Big Dub and Sinjin tuning in, even though it's like 4 a.m. start time. Appreciate you both dearly. Kohji Nagata, the king of Parallel, the prince. The prince is now graduated to the king. Appreciate you each and every week. Tatted Lawyer, congratulations again on being Nintendo's favorite Web3 company. Matthew Buxton, absolutely crushing it with the publisher Warp. Kevin Lambert from Project Oak. Gnoc from Magic Eden, Big Lemz from Cyprus, and the Big Will Spangler from AVAX, and Sinjin, of course. My Greek, who's the girlfriend, coming soon. Excited to see your launch as well. Good luck, brother. An amazing show. Appreciate all of you guys. Thank you to the audience as well that contributed to the conversation via the comments. We'll be back same time, same place, 4 p.m. Eastern next Wednesday. And of course, if you want a little bit of a more layman discussion, we can do simplified 4 p.m. Eastern on Monday as well, where we're not quite so in the weeds like with these founders, etc. But appreciate you guys. We'll see you soon. Take care.